Okay, so this video is for our body weight only circuit. This is workout routine number 1. I'm gonna be following along on my phone like I would imagine a lot of you will be doing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through all 9 exercises. I'm gonna talk about how to differentiate harder or easier. I'm gonna show maybe some different options, but remember, considering what circumstances or equipment you have access to, you might have to get a little bit of, show a little bit of creativity with some things, and I tried to apply that to my situation here. But a couple of big things are just make sure we're being safe. I'm going to talk about that more with like our pull-ups and some other things, but no matter what setup you use, don't get too crazy. Safety first. So the other thing is, speaking of setup, is you want to have everything. The key to a good circuit is you want to have everything set up ahead of time. You don't want to start the circuit and then realize you don't have a dumbbell or something to step up on or some apparatus that you need. Have everything set up and planned from the get-go, so then you can get that good flow and that good push from one exercise to the next. So we should have already had our warm-up. I'm going to start by starting with 1, and I'm going to work my way 1 through 9, and we're going to do 1 round right now. So the first thing on that workout is our front planks. Yes, I believe it or not, we're making the transition from hovers to planks. Don't panic when you see planks. That's more the universal language anyway. So think of this, we're just as like a continuation of our warm-up, right? So we should already be loose, but I like to start each circuit with a little core exercise, a very simple one, just to make sure our core is nice and loose. For this one, we don't need a lot of explanation, just adding and subtracting time to make it harder or easier. What I would suggest though is, since it's like a kickoff one, I wouldn't overdo it and like hold like a 2-minute plank, even if you have the ability to do that. Okay, so now for the rest of the 8 exercises, you're gonna see me alternate basically between upper body and lower body. The first one on here is our reverse push-ups. So I'll be honest, when I was going through planning this workout, the 2 hardest things I was having trouble with were how to do our reverse push-ups and also how to do pull-ups. I think I got a good one for this. I also think I solved the problem of the pull-ups, but as you'll see in a little bit, you might have to get creative with how you arrange things. So I have two examples of a reverse push-up station. This is with 2 ladders and a piece of wood. Over here, if we don't have access to that, maybe we're stuck in our apartment, I have 2 stools and a baseball or softball bat. And trust me, I did try it on this and it was able to support my weight. But again, safety first, be smart with whatever setup you use. With our reverse push-ups, okay, when we hang from this, what I would suggest is to use our bent legs. I know sometimes when we do this, some of us like to extend our legs and hold in this position. Because a lot of us might be using unconventional apparatuses like I am now, it's a little safer to do it with your heels towards your butt and extended. And then from here, our form is like it always is. I'm pulling up, trying to hit that target area on my chest, which is the same as where I hit the bar when I bench, right? We want to not get too high towards our chin or our neck, keep that right centered in the middle of our chest. How do I make this harder or easier? I can make it harder by pausing at the top. So once I'm at the top, hold that for a 1 or 2 count. I can make it easier by taking this whole board and raising it up a notch, right? So by raising it up, I'm gonna use the inclination a little bit more to my advantage and increase the mechanical advantage that I have for the lift, therefore making it a little easier. You can also increase or decrease your reps in increments of 2, one way or another, to make it harder or easier, okay? Now I'm gonna go to my first lower body exercise. I'm gonna go over here to my single leg squat. So for our single leg squats, again, this is not an exercise that is new to all of us. We've all done some form of this. We just need something to step on. I'm gonna be using a cooler. We could use a step like I have over here, just something that's secure to put your foot up on. And just like we always talk about, right, we need to be wide enough in our setup that our knee isn't going over our toe, especially because we're doing more reps. A lot of reps with bad form can do, some harm to our joint. So make sure that we've hopped out enough. We're keeping our weight in our heel. We're going down with good depth. Our leg is perpendicular to the ground. We're not rocking that knee over their toe. We're sitting back on the heel of this down leg, and we have that proud chest. Remember, the cue that you get in the weight room from us is read your t-shirt in the mirror, right? So how do we make this harder or easier? I don't think we'll need to make it easier necessarily, because we're used to adding some stimulus to it. So a goblet, or putting our foot in a strap, or adding weights in some way. If anything, we might need to make it a little bit harder, and we can just simply do that by adding a small dynamic component. Not doing what we sometimes do, the full explosive, propping up on our back toe, driving our knee up high dynamic single leg squat, but more just adding a little bit hop to it, right? So that extra little bit of hop there is gonna force us to sit a little bit more. It's going to get a little bit more fatigue factor in there, but that's a way to make it a little bit harder if we need to. Okay. Next one down. Now I'm going to go back to my upper body. Now I'm going to do my push-ups. So you're going to see for this workout, push-ups appear twice, right? So what I would say is, unless you need to, I would try to alternate between the first push-up and the second one, just with some variety, right? You might need to do the same thing both times, especially if you're more of a novice push-up person, right? So maybe if you need to do them from your knees both times, that's fine, right? But if not, what I would say is give yourself, build in a little variety. Do one type for the first round or the first set at the top, and then something different for the second one. So how do we make our push-ups harder or easier, right? So I can take this towel and I can roll it up, and I can put it underneath my chest to make it easier because it's restricting my depth at the bottom, right? It's giving me a little bit of support so I'm not going as far, okay? That's one way to make it easier. Another way to make it easier is I can increase the inclination. I can simply do that like I did over here with putting my foot up, right? So I can use a set of steps. I can use, again, the same thing I'm using for my step up. Again, by raising the inclination a little bit, it's gonna give myself a little bit more of a mechanical advantage to make it easier. I could also, like I said, perform it from my knees, okay? How could I make it harder? So adding more reps, simple way to make it harder, okay? And what you'll see is on more so like the push-up exercises, some of the body weight stuff, you're gonna see a little different terminology where it says heavy fatigue or very heavy fatigue and failure. Some of you are familiar with that, some of you are not, and if you're not, it's okay. So all that means is there isn't a rep range, right? It's not like you're doing 10 of something or 8 to 12. It's kind of like you do whatever until you feel that sort of stimulus on your body, right? So heavy fatigue means you have 1 or 2 left, right, before you get to failure. Very heavy fatigue means you leave in 1, and failure means failure. And usually you won't see failure appear until that last round, that third round on the right side. That's when we're really trying to empty the tank and really push ourselves to our max, right? So adding reps or decreasing reps is a nice way to make it harder or easier. We could also add a little dynamic component by getting a little air under our hands, or we can add some variety in the type of push-up we're doing. Maybe we do a Spider-Man push-up where we're bringing our knee to our elbow and we're alternating one side and the other to engage our core. Maybe we're doing a yoga or a downward dog push-up where we're changing the inclination of or the direction that we're going, so we get a little bit more chest or shoulder work rather. Again, a lot of us have done a wide range of push-ups, so don't be afraid to stray a little bit from what's on the program if you want to get creative or just mix up some different things, right? A lot of us are savvy enough to definitely be able to do that. So that's the push-up. Now we're going to go back to our lower body. So our next lower body exercise is our side lunges. You can slide out here. So this is one that we commonly mess up in the weight room, okay? And actually I like having to do it with no body weight because a lot of times even just the bar on our back, the 45 or 35 pound bar, is too much to really keep our good form. So for this, the key is I want my toes to stay on the same plane or the same line. So whether I start in this position or I start balancing on one leg, when I step to the side, 2 things need to happen. This trail leg needs to stay straight and I need to step directly to the side. A lot of us tend to step in front, right? If anything, I might want to step slightly behind that toe. So again, whether you start here or you start in a march position, as you step to the side, if I pause here, my toes are on the same line, right? So this trail leg is straight, I'm sitting on this heel, right? All my weight's on this heel, all of this butt cheek is going to do all the work, and I'm going to drive back up, right? So I'm going down nice and low and then driving back up. How do I make this harder? I can pause 2 places. Here, okay, holding that position. I can also pause at the bottom, okay, for 1 or 2 second count. How do I make it a little bit easier? I can actually alternate sides. So I would suggest the regular version would be to do all one side than the other. So I do all my reps in the right leg. When I'm done that, transition to all my reps in the left leg. If we alternate back and forth, it makes it a little bit easier. It doesn't push or stress our muscles as much, okay? Now we're going to go to the next upper body exercise, which is our pull-ups. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this, right? I'm going to show you a way that if you can do a pull-up by like a traditional, what we think of pull-up, hanging from something, we can do that. Or after, I'm going to show you a way we can cheat it if you absolutely don't have someone to do pull-ups. And if you don't, and I actually consider this for myself, like I wouldn't suggest like climbing a tree or if you're still at your apartment in Bethlehem, like hanging out your balcony or something, you know, like that's not safe. Don't be dumb, make good decisions, okay? We want to get our workout in, but not at the sacrifice of breaking a leg, right? So for me, I found that if I hung from my deck, okay, I could get a regular traditional pull-up in, right? So how do we make pull-ups harder or easier? The obvious one is adding reps, right? We might not need to make it harder, but we could possibly, depending on the setup we have, hang from a towel, okay? We could adjust our grip, okay? We could also engage our core more by doing things like I'll show you in a second, keeping our legs in an L shape, okay? Or hanging with our legs crunched up. But either way, no matter what choice we do, if we're doing a traditional hanging pull-up from whatever it may be, we want to think about engaging our core, right? We don't just want to hang and pull with our upper body. We want to think about crunching and pulling our arms up, right? So after we get out here and we get secure, I can hold this position and do our pull-up. I can let my legs hang and do a traditional pull-up. But either way, no matter what we choose, whole body exercise for that. Let's say we don't have anything. I don't have anything to hang off of. I don't have a bar, nothing, right? One way that we can cheat it and still get the benefit of using our lats, like what we're really going for here, is to do our reverse push-up setup, but cheat by hanging our butt down a little bit. So what I mean is, if I get my regular reverse push-up here, and I let my hips sag, now when I go to pull up, instead of using mostly my back, I'm using a lot more lat here. Okay. The other nice thing about this is I can give myself my own assistance as I fatigue by pushing up through my heels. So if you don't have a spot to do your pull-ups, or maybe you just struggle with just doing more than 2 or 3 bodyweight pull-ups, I would suggest that as the alternative. That would definitely be the way I would go. Okay. Now we're going to go back to our next lower body exercise, which is our split squat jumps. So wanted to get a little bit of a dynamic part into it. Can you slide over here? And I put it a little bit further down because this is going to tax, especially if you're adding reps to what I suggested on there, this is going to push the lungs and the heart a little bit. So kind of put it near the end of the workout so we get that time to recover after the whole round is over. So think about when we do our regular lunges, right? We're in this position, okay? We want to get in that position, but what we want to do is cheat a little bit by bringing that back foot up a little closer to our butt. All that's going to do is allow us to be a little bit more explosive, right? So when I get my setup here, I'm in my lunge position. I'm going to get down nice and low. That knee's just about touching. My goal is to jump as high as I can and then absorb down and land in basically the same position I started with, just one difference. My feet are switched, right? So I'm here, I'm in my lunge position, cheating that foot up. I'm going to explode up, and I'm going to stick that landing nice and low. When I land, again, you should be able to read the top of your t-shirt. Your upper body posture shouldn't be all that dissimilar from when we do our single leg squats over there. How do we make that harder or easier? We're just increasing or decreasing reps, or how fast you do the jumps, right? So rapid fire versus 1, kind of take your time, do a second, take your time, right? So I would do like a regular tempo to start and then adjust accordingly. And then we have our second round of pull-ups, or push-ups rather. So again, like I said before, if you need to repeat and basically just do the same push-up you did the first time, not a problem. But if you don't, if we're more that moderate to veteran or more experienced push-up person, add some variety. Do something different from what you picked the first time, right? And then we're gonna finish with bird dogs. So if we remember this one, right, and this one we commonly get confused with our Superman, right? So when we do our Superman, very similar but a subtle difference, it's important to know. Our Superman, we're raising, right? We're raising our opposite hand and heel at the same time, almost like we're on a puppet and they're just pulling up on the strings, right? For this, we want to think about elongating or extending, right? So I'm going to go opposite arm, opposite leg. As I raise my right hand, I'm going to extend my left heel back, and I want to finish in this position. What's important as I continue to go through and alternate is 2 things. My whole body is flat and parallel to the ground, and I'm squeezing the butt cheek of the leg that comes up. So right now, this butt cheek is I'm squeezing and it's engaged. The reason that's important is it helps engage our lower back muscles, right? And think of this like an injury prevention exercise for your lower back, okay? So I just took you through all 9 exercises. What you should do is do them back to back to back to back as quickly as you can with minimal rest. Maybe the rest is just like I did, walking from one area to the next. If you're feeling like you're getting through the round and you're winded, okay, what I would say is get to the spot and count down from 10 seconds, or get to your spot, count down from 20 seconds, count down from 30. I wouldn't go past 30 seconds, because once you're giving yourself more than 30 seconds in between one exercise and the next, now we're kind of getting away from the philosophy of circuit training, right? So after I do on my 9, that's one round. That's when I get my big rest, right? So that could be a full 3-minute rest, a 2-minute rest, a 1-minute rest, or if you're really crushing it, that might be, man, I just did my 9 exercises. I finished with my bird dogs. Now I'm going to get started right away. I don't need any recovery. I'm good. I'm going to go into round 2, go through those 9 exercises. Again, decide how much we're resting, 3 minutes or less, and then do my last round, okay? And then at the end, what you're going to see, and don't confuse this with the circuit, right? So we have our dynamic warm-up, or whatever we're doing for our warm-up. We have our 3 rounds of 9 exercises for our circuit, and then our finish is our core. So you have 2 core exercises on there. We have L-foot swings and seated crunch holds. I can demo those right here. One we should be very familiar with. The other one is a little twist on things that we've probably done before. So for our L-foot swings, listen up tight hamstring crowd, we need to keep our heels straight up and our legs fairly straight, right? So shoulders are flat, arms to my side. I like to have my palms down so I can push through my palms to help anchor myself. My heels are straight out. I'm not going at an angle, right? I'm going directly to the side, right? And again, my legs are fairly straight. My goal is to have my heels straight up, and I'm going back and forth. If you're having a hard time keeping your shoulder blades down, looking over your opposite shoulder, right? When your legs go to your left, look over your right shoulder, and vice versa, will help keep those shoulders down. The other exercise we're going to do is our rolling, or our crunches, okay? Our self holds, right? So we're going to get in essentially a Russian twist position. Our heels are off the ground. We're going to be at a 45-degree inclination. What I want to think about here is crushing an egg or a plastic cup or a can of soda with my elbows and my knees. All I'm going to do is hold that position and crunch and squeeze together. The key to this is you don't just want to lift with your hip flexors, right? We want to think about a crunching exercise where we're engaging our whole abdominals. And for that one, you're doing it for a length of time. So again, easier way to make it harder or easier is increasing or decreasing the time needed for the exercise. So that's the whole circuit. If we get through that, things go well, what I would do is then try the other circuit, but I watch that video first. Any questions come up, let us know. Make sure you get a good warm-up before you start. Make sure you have everything set up before you go, and crush it.